Hello, welcome to my channel where I talk mostly about watercolour painting. My name's Wedge and I'm an artist based in the south of England. So today's video is going to be about how I created these two watercolour paintings in my sketchbook. And the main point of the exercise was to challenge myself to not use so much blue, or in other words, to use a different colour palette than I normally use. So for the first painting I went more towards the greens, but I also used a bit of brown madder, and then for the second painting I really loved the brown madder and I was inspired to do a brown madder base painting. And both of these paintings are abstracts and they're layered, and then I'm going to be using the watercolour medium Aquapasto on them as well. So for this first painting, the colour palette I'm using is Quinacridone Gold, which I don't normally use, and Phythalo Blue, Brown Madder, Burnt Sienna and Paynes Grey. And I found that the Quinacridone Gold mixed with the Phythalo Blue made a really nice bright green, and then I used my Burnt Sienna and Grey and Paynes Grey to sort of mute these down in parts. And here I'm actually adding the Burnt Sienna, and later on I add the brown madder on top of this because I felt like that burnt sienna was a bit too orange. But I do think that these colours go well together, and I was pretty happy with this painting as a kind of colour exploration and a technique exploration as well. I absolutely love the medium of watercolour, as you might be able to tell, because most of my videos on my channel are about watercolour, but I'm really interested in really trying to push the use of it and trying to see what I can do. And it layers in a really interesting way, but I do think that it can be a bit trickier to do these quite layered paintings with watercolour than maybe a medium where you can lay light on top of dark, because once your dark colours go down it's very difficult to get those colours to be bright again. And I think that sometimes what I do is I almost use too many bright colours in my paintings. I'm always trying to make myself use more neutral colours, but I think that I leave the bright colours because I know that once I've got those neutral colours on top of them I won't be able to change it. So that really was my challenge for this painting, and I feel quite happy that I did manage to tone down the colours, but I think overall the painting perhaps turned out a little bit more green than I ideally would have liked, but it is a sketchbook painting so it doesn't really matter, and it was pretty fun to do. So I'm going in with my darks here. I think it's really important to have a good balance between the darks and the lights, and I'm trying to give a sort of structure to the composition. I wanted the lines to be going in both directions, but to try and sort of focus the attention in the middle of the composition. So I hope that this video might inspire you to do something similar and maybe try a different colour palette yourself. I'd be really interested to know how you get on if you do decide to do that in the comments. I'm going to put the music up for a bit now, and then I'll jump in again towards the end of this painting and before I start the next one. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with how this painting has turned out, and I'm taking the tape off now, but there is this area at the bottom where I'm not quite happy with it, and I also feel like it just needs a little bit of a different colour, something a bit warmer. So what I did was I decided to cover up that slightly odd triangle at the bottom with the neo colour pastels, and I think it jumped a little bit there when I did that, but I'm using a mix of colours there, and I finish it off with this quite warm, that's a yellow ochre I think, and once I'd added that I really felt like it sort of given that painting the kind of lift that it needed. And I think I'm going to call this painting quits now, because for a sketchbook painting I'm fairly happy with it, and it will really generate some ideas in the future. I think there's quite a nice mix there of smaller marks and darker marks and lighter areas, and there's also quite a nice variation in textures, because the Aquapasto has given the paint texture, and the Neocolor 2 crayons have also given the painting texture. Okay, so that one's done now, and I'm going to get on to the next one. And it was that brown madder that I really liked on the other one, and I wanted to move away from green, and I still had all this paint in my palette, and I just sort of went for it really. I wanted to do a bit more of a simple composition, and I wanted to do a square as well, and I just decided to do this sort of off-centre shape of the brown madder, and I actually added the Aquapasto in fairly early, and I'm just going to put the music up while I just get this to a certain point, and then I start layering at the end, and I'll talk a bit about the layering when I get to that part. So I got to this point and I actually felt quite happy with this painting. It was quite satisfying to do because it was quite simple. So I took my masking tape off, and then I just kind of took a break from it, and actually when I came back to it I decided that I wanted to push it a bit further and actually add some layers. And the interesting thing was that when I added the thinner layers of paint on top, and here I'm actually just putting a cobalt blue on top, and it's quite watered down, and that actually, I think because that brown madder was mixed with quite a lot of Aquapasto, that took off quite a lot of the brown madder underneath. And to start with I thought it was an absolute disaster that had happened, but I actually ended up really liking the effect. And so that was a really happy, unexpected kind of accident really, and exactly why I love doing sketchbook work so much, because it's a really great chance to sort of discover these things that you can then take into finished paintings. So this painting here was a little bit different to some of my other paintings, but I really liked it, and I definitely think I can take some of these ideas into some of my other paintings and maybe into some of my landscape paintings as well. So I really hope you've enjoyed this demonstration and that you found it interesting, and if you try something similar then leave a comment and I'll get back to you. And if you like the video, please hit like, and if you'd like to see similar videos in the future then please subscribe to my channel. Okay, thank you, bye.